wonderful metaphors that you find in various texts and various teachings on how we should perceive the nature of reality, how we should perceive our lives, ourselves, our reality generally. And there are numbers of metaphors of illusion that are used to describe this. A lot of them come from the Prajnaparamita Sutras, which developed around the turn of the millennium, in which our Prajnaparamita practice and teachings come out of. There's, as part of the sort of larger canon of texts that are part of the Prajnaparamita Sutras, is the Diamond Sutra. And there's a very famous series of lines towards the end of that sutra which talk about or lay out a few of these metaphors. So I'll just read this. Like stars, like an optical illusion, like a lamp, like a magical illusion, dewdrops or a bubble, like a dream, a flash of lightning or a cloud, so all that is produced is to be seen. And then there's another piece in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is a teaching on what you should do when you're in the bardo and you are drawn towards your parents and you see them making love and you're drawn to enter that womb. And so this is the instruction in that moment.
It's the only time when you're drawn to your parents making love, by the way.
Every other time. Oh, it's true. So here the teaching is, all these apparent phenomena are illusory in their real nature. All these, meaning what you see, are projections of my mind. And since the mind itself is illusory and non-existent from the beginning, from where externally do they arise like this? Now they are like dreams, like illusions, like echoes, like cities of the Gandharvas, like mirages, like images, like optical illusions, like the moon in water. They are not real, even for a moment. Certainly they are not true, but false. And then, if you remember from the Lojong slogans, which we studied a number of years back, but these Lojong slogans, which are about 1,000 years old from Atisha, one of the Lojong slogans is, regard all dharmas as dreams. Basically, regard all phenomena as dreams. So again, here the metaphor of dream, regarding reality as a dream or as an illusion comes up. And then finally, this is this wonderful line from the Lankavatara Sutra, which says, things are not as they appear, nor are they otherwise. Things are not as they appear, nor are they otherwise. So I was sort of drawn to why all these illusions, all these metaphors of illusion or dream, and what's really being pointed to. And so there are two aspects to it. And this last phrase that I said, I'd like to break that up. So the first part is, things are not as they appear. So really the teaching is here that reality is a dream. Reality is an illusion. The way we perceive things is actually not real. We have an incorrect view of the world. We tend to think of things as solid, as permanent, as really real. It really matters. What I think, I believe what I think. I believe what I see. I believe what I feel. And it's very serious. And there's the city of Gandharvas that was described as one of these metaphors, is the city, we look at a cloud, and we imagine it to be like a city. And the Gandharvas are these celestial musicians or beings of the heavenly realms. And it's interesting when they have images like this or metaphors like this, then I think we have much better ways of accessing them. For example, when you're flying and you look down over intense cloud cover where you have these huge clouds and billowing clouds, and it really looks like it's a whole world, right? You can imagine the little cherubs or the whoever sitting in their clouds and having a home. So that's the city of the Gandharvas, is this magical city in the clouds that we imagine. So it says, our sense of reality, we think we're real, like that city of the Gandharvas. But actually, of course, this solidity, this permanence is an illusion. It's just a cloud. It's just vapor. There's nothing actually there. And so when we truly examine our reality, the Diamond Sutra says, when we really look at our reality, at ourselves, it is, quote, empty, void, and without substance. Empty, void, and without substance. actually nothing is permanent. Actually nothing is solid. And it's described, then again, these metaphors are used to describe the different ways that we think of the self. And the self is often described as the 5 skandhas, or 5 heaps, these constituent parts that make us think that we are solid and real. And the first is form, that we have a solid body, a solid form. And so it said, actually, form is like foam floating down a river. So it has this quality. It seems like there's some kind of permanence in our body, but it's really like foam in water, and it's dissolving. It's busy dissolving even as we sit here, even as we speak. There's a prayer, a Kadampa prayer, that says, "My body, like a water bubble, decays and dies so very quickly." So we've caught the water bubble the foam as it's moving down the river. This is ourselves, our body, that we think of as real, but actually it's busy dissolving. Feelings, it is said, are like a water bubble. And they're pleasurable for a moment, but then they pop. And I think this image of a water bubble is beautiful, because if you see, or like kids blowing bubbles, and it's so magical, and you're so drawn to it. And it's like a feeling. You have a feeling. This is a description of our feelings, and it feels so real to us, right? It's our total reality, and that's that drawing to. We're drawn to it like a water bubble, but then it bursts. And kids are great in this regard, because they can be incredibly upset one moment, and then they're done, and they've moved on. And I'm the one that but that feeling was so real. There's got to be something real behind it. That upset was really based on something. And I try to maintain that reality, but actually it's done with, it's gone. And then perceptions in these teachings says, perceptions are like a mirage. They are delusory. And so, there's often the metaphor of the snake in the road. You think it's a snake, and you get all nervous and worried, and then you see it's actually just a rope. So that our perceptions also are not what they appear. And I know in psychological studies they've done this. They have people have a similar experience, and then after the experience, everyone says what they saw and what they experienced, and the stories are completely different. You're in the field of psychology, but completely different. So what we perceive is really, it's our own perspective. There's no solidity, there's no constancy, there's no permanence to it. It's like a mirage. And then finally, so these are these skandhas. So we have form, we have feeling, we have perception, and then volition or will or opinions. And it is said our opinions are like the trunk of a plantain or of a banana tree. They're not substantive. And so I guess a plantain tree, I've never cut down a plantain tree, but that it has a very thick outer trunk. But when you cut it, it's hollow in the middle. And that our opinions are like that. They seem really solid. We really believe in them. But when you dig just beneath the surface, there's actually hollowness. There's nothing in them. And in a sense, that image, I think that metaphor is helpful. There's in the teachings, they talk about the woodcutter who goes out to gather wood for the fire. And so he's cutting down the plantain tree thinking he's going to have this wonderful wood for fire, and in the end it's all hollow. And that our opinions are like that. We were just watching the Republican debates the other night, and that sense of it's really real. It's real. My opinion is the reality, and I'm going to make this fire of it, right? But if you go just a little bit further, it's actually very hollow, because the one says this and the other says that. And it's from, the more divorced you are, the more, I think, distance you have from something, the more you can see the hollowness of opinions. And then finally, the fifth skandha is consciousness. So that awareness which holds everything. And it is said consciousness is like a magic show. And there's this ability we have to create our lives, create the autobiography of ourselves, so to speak, continuously. But it's like a magic show that inherently there's nothing that's left. There's nothing that remains. It's that sense of you can't take it with you. We're tracing the autobiography of our lives in water, or like in the air. Like, remember as a kid, they always did these, in New York, these ads in the sky. They'd have a plane that would release smoke or like some kind of cloud or smoke, and then you'd see like Colgate or I don't know, whatever it was, and then it would disappear. And so that's our consciousness, is like a magic show. It creates it for a moment, it's real, and then it's gone. So this part of the teachings, these teachings on reality as dream, are really about pointing us to the incorrectness of our view, to say when we grasp to things as solid or as permanent, that's where we create suffering. That's actually the source of our suffering. So the teachings on reality as a dream is to release us from our own suffering, which is created by the attachment we have to things which actually are not permanent and not solid. And that actually, so when we think of things as solid, when we think of things as permanent, we get caught, and we've discussed this, I know, many times here, but we get caught in what we want and what we don't want, and we take it very seriously, and we're very happy when we get what we want, and we're very upset when we don't get what we want, and we're scared that what we have we will lose, and that is the whole cycle of suffering. So to practice seeing life as a dream is, in a way, is to poke holes in the denseness of our reality, is to lighten it up. It's cutting through eternalism. And you might say that this part of these teachings, this metaphor, is almost like a via negativa. It's saying, no, it's not solid. No, it's not real. No, don't hold on to it. Let go, let go, let go. Poking holes, poking holes. And that actually the way to describe our reality is much more as an interbeing, as non-solid, as a playful arising. So when we regard all phenomena as dreams, what we're doing is, well, I'll tell you this dream that I had. It was sort of a lucid dream, so it's this example. I dreamt that there were robbers in the house, and they kept coming in, and I'd be able to push them out and lock the door behind them, but they kept coming in another door. And finally I was like, oh my God, maybe they came in downstairs. So I ran downstairs, and they had driven up in these very fancy red cars, and I saw them part. I said, oh my God, they got in. And I realized they had come in through the door, and they were coming around this wall. It was sort of like here, like coming around here. And they came around, and they had these guns, these two guys, and they were standing there with their guns. And in that moment, I said, oh, this is a dream. This is a dream. This is a dream. I don't, And then I looked at them again, and their guns had turned into these plastic, colorful water pistols. And they were still standing there, but it was these water pistols instead of real guns. And so, why I'm telling this is regarding life as a dream, it's like it's still there, but there's humor in it. It lightens up, right? It's just a dream. It's just a dream. So that's one piece of these teachings on these metaphors of illusion. But the dream metaphor, and this is the second piece that I wanted to talk about a little bit, is the problem I've had with this metaphor of the dream is when we say it's just a dream, there's some sense of like, well, then we can wake up, right? Like when we dream at night, and you dream that you lost something, or you missed your exam, or, whatever our dreams are, you like, that you wake up and you're like, oh, God, I'm so glad that was just a dream, and it's done. And you might still have the emotional sort of echoes of the dream, but it's done. But here, what are we waking up to? Is there some other reality? Like, okay, we're all a dream, but now finally we're going to wake up, and there we are. But there is no other place, right? I mean, they're in the teachings. We're not waking up into some other reality. We wake up, and we still have the T-Mobile bill. And we wake up, and we're all still sitting here. So that was always like, what is this actually? What is this metaphor helpful? Because what are we waking up into? And so what we're actually waking up into, interestingly enough, is we're waking up into realizing the dreamlike nature of our lives all the time. What we're waking up into is the non-solidity and non-permanent quality of our lives continuously. And so this is the second part of that line. Things are not as they appear, right? They're just a dream, so don't take them so seriously. But nor are they otherwise. Nor are they otherwise. We're still here. We realize the dreamlike nature, and yet they are still here. Things are still here. And so, in a way, what happens, and I spoke about this before, what happens in this, what happens when we wake up from the dream and nonetheless we are still here, is that play enters. And there's that, I know I've referred to this often before as well, but the sense of Leela from the Hindu tradition, of divine play, that we are here, we are playing in the dream, not because we're going to wake up to some solid reality, but because that's the nature of what we are. We are dream makers. We are dreamers, dreaming our dreams. And so becoming aware of that creates a lightness, creates a playfulness. And the Buddha, in talking, this is also from the Diamond Sutra, he was talking about how to speak about reality, or how to speak about enlightenment, or even speak about the Buddha. And he said, if one sees me in forms, if one sees me in sounds, he practices the deviant way and cannot see the Tathagata. So, in other words, he said we should not endow the Dharma with marks. So what he's saying is whenever we try to solidify, whenever we try to say, it's like this is the form, this is the right word, this is the right, whenever we do that grasping, the marks, the permanent characteristics, we've already lost it. We've tried to hold on to the cloud. We've tried to hold on to the dream. We've tried to make permanent a dream that is just a dream. And this is, one of my favorite quotes from Trungpa Rinpoche is, truth has no handles. And that same idea is not that there's no truth. It's not nihilism that we're going to. And that undercutting of eternalism by saying, regard all dharmas as dreams, we're undercutting eternalism, but it's not nihilism. It's not that nothing is left. Truth is there, but it has no handles. It has nothing to grasp onto. And then here's the last metaphor I want to share with you, which is the metaphor of the rainbow that's used. And the rainbow as the true description of reality, which is another sort of metaphor of illusion. And Dzongtsar Khyentse Rinpoche gives teachings on the quality of the rainbow. And he says a rainbow only arises out of the right causes and conditions. It's the right bringing together. It's all play, right? He said, rainbow, it's the right causes and conditions of moisture and of light and of air that come together. And then they create this incredibly ordered existence of the rainbow, manifestation of the rainbow. And yet, it has no inherent existence, right? You can never get to the rainbow. You can never grasp the rainbow. And so he says this is the wonderful metaphor for the relative existence of the self. We are here. We do exist. But we're like that magical coming together of the right causes and conditions that allows us to manifest as we do, like a rainbow. It does exist. We do see it, and it's perfect. There's a pattern to a rainbow, right? It's not random. It's not chaos. We do show up in the way we show up with our amazing abilities as awareness and conscious beings. And yet, we are insubstantial in the way a rainbow is. We are an illusory display in that sense. And it's interesting to me that in the Dzogchen tradition, the sort of penultimate achievement, you might say, is to attain the rainbow body, that at the time of death, the actual physical body dissolves back into its constituent elements, and what remains energetically is light, is rainbow, is that the human form, the physical form, becomes light. So that actually, you might say, our true condition, our true manifestation is like a rainbow. So where does this leave us? And for me, it's this sense when I think of We are the rainbow. This reality is the rainbow. There's an incredible sense of preciousness and brilliance. It's like no matter how many rainbows you see, when you see a rainbow, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's exquisite. And our lives are like that. And there are those moments, when we talked about our moments of beauty today, or like at night sometimes I look at the boys and it's just this moment of exquisite beauty, of total preciousness. But not because it's going to remain, not because it's solid, not because there's anything to do with it. Just in its arising, just in its beingness. And so that this other side, things are not what they appear, nor are they otherwise. In a way, it's this wonderful roundabout way of saying this is a dream, but what a wonderful dream it is. And may we wake up to that brilliance of the dream. So that's what I have to share about the illusions and the metaphors of illusions. So I'd love to see anything that is raised for you, or observations, reflections. Maybe let's practice together. Why don't we, I'll just walk us into a meditation.